welcome to BCC Virtual Racing. Tonight's race, hosted by Glasgow Green Cycle Club, is on the Richmond UCI Reverse Course. So a return to Richmond and one of the many variations on that theme. Course is 32.6 kilometres long, 16.2k per lap with a short lead in, and is a little bit bumpy, 315 metres of climbing in total. Tonight's racing with GGCC is split, or start times are split, 1 minute intervals from A through to D. D category riders are only riding one lap of 16 odd kilometres, and the A riders are just about to go off, although we are starting with the main field. From a BCC perspective, the category B riders, 11 entered tonight, 2 in the A's that I can see, 3 in category C and 3 in category D. So 45 seconds until the start. 3 major climbs, if one wants to call them that. The first, following a descent after the start, the first climb is up Broad Street to the KOM banner, then a descent of 23rd Street, and then straight into 25th and Franklin, which is the short, very short climb, but with a 22% incline, I think it is. And from there it descends over the twisty cobbles down Libby Hill, and a long sort of final climb on the lap is not very steep, but it drags on for about 1.5 kilometres, I think, if I remember. But it will certainly take some effort of riders to keep pace with that. And we'll just move over to the start now. Let's see if we can pick up our first rider. And we'll just sit for a moment as the riders begin to settle with Blackham. I can see on screen there Kalik just in front of him. Empson is there as well, and I'm sure the others. Campbell, I can see Davis as well. Civita, Thompson from GGCC, who I think might have actually beaten Barry last time. Not sure if Lancey is riding yet this evening. I haven't seen him on the start list. In fact, he is on the start list, but I haven't seen him on the screen. He, from Thursday night's race, beat Davis again, so deserves yet another I Beat Barry t-shirt. I think they might be in short supply now. It wasn't intended as a one-off, an unusual circumstance, but it's happening more and more regularly these days. So good luck to everyone that manages to beat Davis. And while, as I say, the riders do get underway now, 0.5 kilometre in, just a quick recap on Thursday night's race. Category A for BCC was won by Tom, followed very closely by Charles, well, about 1.5 minutes actually. But at the same time as Charles, along came Lancia for category B, just beating Davis in the sprint, and Kalik as well. Something Kalik I think probably should have won. Maybe not quite as strong as Lancia, but should definitely be beating Davis as the younger rider there. Blackham dropped off a little bit and came in 4th place, I think it was. 4th place indeed. Although he has just recovered, of course, I'm sure is just recovering from the club handicap race on Saturday, where he was beaten over the line by Ketley in a very well timed sprint. In the C's from Thursday night, Chris Reed won again, followed by Oliver White and Nixon. And in the D's, the ongoing battle between Telford and Jones saw a win by Telford yet again. So let's have a look and see what's happening now in the action. Campbell up front, 680 watts, so they've hit obviously the first climb now. 7%. And on the moving map you can see just where the riders are now, coming towards the top of that climb. So Campbell will be looking to take advantage of this hill. Climbing's perhaps not his favourite thing, but he's in a good position and has good strength to punch up these climbs. And we're coming up to the top of 23rd Street now. Empson is still in there as well. Kalik seems to have dropped a second away from the front leaders of this group, to be fair, but is still within this group. Davis is ahead of Thompson at the moment, who may, I don't have the results for non-BCC riders in front of me, but I think might actually have beaten Davis again on last week's race. And there they are, the riders coming up under the KOM banner now, and as they start this short sharp descent on the cobbles, have a quick look further back in the field, see who else we could see from BCC. There's Taff, 9 seconds off the pace already. That's a bit unusual. Did very well in the handicap race on Saturday. I think was third in the sprint if I remember correctly, but I could see on screen now Shannon is 26 seconds further back from Taff. I'm only 3 minutes 26 seconds into the race, so in the space of that short time he's fallen off the pace by some 26 seconds. Still holding for him though the sort of fairly average power, and I mean that in a nice way, so he's not certainly not relaxing. Riders will at this stage in the race just begin to back off a little bit after the frantic sort of typical start. And in the C's, no sign of Reed, so Nixon is leading the charge for category C at 2.2 kilometers as he goes under the KOM banner. In fact, there is Reed, having said that. No sooner did I say it. Of course, going up a steep hill there at 110 kilos, perhaps not his favoured method, or favoured type of course, which perhaps why he's dropped a little bit away from Nixon. But now on the downhill, Reed may well catch up a little. It's 3 seconds gap between the two of them. We'll come back to them a bit later on and see who is in front. 2 laps of the hills though. This could be a difficult one to call. Just looking for any other riders from BCC in the C's. I think only 3 riders. I haven't seen Cullen. There's Civita. Certainly well off the pace. I was going to say only doing 7 watts, but that was downhill. I suspect this is one of his rides where he's just cruising for he's on a time trial bike by the looks of it as well. I suspect he's just doing some training rather than racing to win a particular category. And here we come into the D's now. No sign of Cullen yet either. D's. There is Jones, Rob Jones and Andy Telford right next to each other. No great surprise there. They will change positions back and forward for quite a while yet, I'm sure. Telford had the better of Jones on the Volcano circuit on Thursday evening, just managing to beat him on that final climb up to the finish, which he has done once before. And then the last rider on course that I can see at the moment is Lord, just coming up to that same KOM banner. Let's see what's happening up the front with the Category A riders. If I can get to it this way, will Zwift let me? No, it won't. Let's move back up through the field very quickly. Not a huge number of entrants in tonight's race overall. It seems to vary quite a bit for some reason. I think 46 in total. So hopefully will be a fairly easy race to track, and hopefully technically everything is working as it should. It all seems to be, but I can never quite tell. On the way back up through the field, just having a quick look in Category C, Reed on one of the flatter sections of the course. 10 seconds behind Nixon, so the gap is widening. Gap between Nixon and Shannon at 4.8 kilometers, fairly static at this stage. I think Reed is still right on the cusp of moving up to Category B, and Taff now there has found a few other riders, dropped off very quickly at the start. And ahead of him, Blackham is with Campbell, Thompson from GGCC, Davis. And who else? Kalik is there. We still hear continued rumours about Kalik and a possible transfer to another team. But I think has strong potential, but needs to show it on occasions. There is Tom leading the charge for BCC at 7.1 kilometres, coming up for 10 minutes into this race. And I'm just checking, Lisa was the other Category A entry. I thought I had a quick glimpse of her earlier on. There she is with the polka dot jersey on. No great surprise there. Has dropped off the pace from the front of the group. It happens fairly often. No great surprise there, but still continuing to keep ahead of Category B. And as a reminder, of course, the category started at 1 minute intervals, so the chasing B group is gaining on her rather rapidly. She'll be quite comfortable in there when she gets there, and I think suits her style of riding. In fact, there is on screen a great shot now of the Category B peloton chasing Lisa up this hill, and I think before very long they will be with her. Let's see a view from that group, that they are gaining extremely rapidly. That is Lisa just going over the top of the hill, I think, now. In this group still Empson, Kalik, Davis, Thompson, Blackham, Lancia. Campbell in there towards the back of the group as Blackham. No, Blackham has fallen away yet again. This is yet another surprise. Not quite sure what's happening with Blackham. He's been riding sort of sporadically over the recent races, has done very well, and then this seems to happen every now and again as well, where he just can't hold on to the pace. And he is at 283 watts. Might gain a little on the hills, but for the moment he has dropped off about 8 seconds from the main Category B peloton, and typically he does seem to pull much of that back towards the latter part of a race. On Thursday evening he was about a minute down on the leading B riders, so his target today is to be under a minute away from those leading riders. But a surprise to see him there. I think he needs his old Watt bike back. And Tarth is the next rider further behind Blackham at 7.3 kilometres. 11 minutes into the race, looking fairly comfortable within this group of riders. Uphill, of course, 330 watts. Heartbeat is right up there at 169. He is a rider with a good sprint capability as well. And I think Shannon is another 30 seconds further back. There is Shannon just with, by the looks of it, one other rider. Difficult position to be in, a couple ahead, stretched out. Shannon now at 7.4, 3.3 watts per kilo, which is fairly average for him, for a continued, I should say average for him at race pace, to be fair. Can average around 3.5 watts per kilo in a race. Just looking at last week's race just to see what it was he did. I'm not sure he even rode in it. Can't see him on the list, but fairly normal form at race pace. I should say fairly normal race pace. Nixon still seems to be leading the charge for Category C for BCC at 7.6 kilometres, 11 minutes 22 seconds into the race. No sign of Reed, although Nixon is isolated at this stage. Let's have a look, see who's in front. A couple of riders stretched out, but no group or peloton to take advantage of. And behind him, a small group gaining fairly quickly. Is Reed in that group? So Reed is in that group, I think. Let's see if we can get a good idea of the gap. So uphill again. But Reed is clawing some of the distance back. Looks to be about a 3-second gap between Reed and Nixon at this stage. So Nixon has come off the pace slightly by the looks of it. I think it is Reed that is catching up. Although Zwift is just changing the times yet again. Has he in fact caught up? No, it's still the same. Sorry, take it all back. It's still about a 10-second gap between Reed and Nixon. And moving back now through the field, trying to pick up any of the other riders. Just checking to see who's entered and whom I haven't yet seen. Cullen I haven't seen. If you're watching the live stream and see Cullen, just type it in the chat box for me and I'll have a hunt for him. There is Civita on his training ride, so we won't give him too much attention. And Jones and Telford, what's happening there? There's a surprise, right next to each other on the same team, so one would think they might actually work together a little bit more often. But right now, next to each other, no one else in sight, behind or in front of any significance to aid them on their progress. And this is Lord with the view up the hill, and that, I think, just going over the top is Telford and Jones. 7.7 kilometres into the race, about a quarter of the way through. Just under a quarter of the way through. A good time to start to think about breakaways. It's a good course for a breakaway. The hills give the opportunity to make an attack, and then the flatter sections play to the advantages of some of the larger riders. So there's Blackham about 10.4 kilometres, 28 seconds ahead of Taff at this stage. Has found a group of 4, 5, 6 other riders, and I'm sure he'll try to maintain this pace now. Thompson from GGCC with Empson, and I'm sure in this group, as soon as Zwift identifies some of the riders. Campbell is in there, I can see him on the rider list. Lisa has now joined the leading B group as expected, and I have no doubt at all she'll stay with this group right until the very end. Kalik is in there. I really think this is a course where Kalik can demonstrate his capabilities. An attack would be nice to see. He's tried it before, but he was beaten by Davis in the last race. So again, someone old enough to be his father has beaten him. And there is the master of wattage management, Davis. 3.1 watts per kilo. He knows what he's doing. He's going to manage that now all the way to the end. Although he has been riding well, he's been managing that power output exceptionally well, actually, to be fair, over the last few races. Has had some great results. He first for BCC in the Bs on Thursday night, and I think had a bronze cup overall for all category B riders. So a great result for him, and he kept that. Let's have a look. Within a 3.8 watt average for the entire race. So if he gets the tactics right, manages to stay with the right groups, use that power when he needs to, and then hold it where to keep under that 4 watts per kilo, he can do exceptionally well. Lisa with a green jersey and a polka dot. In fact, 2 polka dots and a green jersey now. Riding very well. And I've no doubt Tom is still somewhere up near the front. No Stoneham to race against tonight, so it might be a slight disincentive, but I've no doubt he'll be trying his very best to get a good time on this course. Not sure if we have raced this exact course before. Certainly raced many of these hills and roads in the many varieties of the Richmond course that appear. So Kalik, let's just try and see the gap between Tom, the leading A riders, and category B. Just there's Tom on screen. Stop moving around, I get it. There's Tom on screen now at 14.4 kilometers, 256 watts. FTP I think is around 305, something of that nature. And behind him, let's just see if we can get the gap to category B. It looks to be about a minute and a half. If Zwift is telling me the truth, about a minute and a half to the leading, the main category B peloton. I think there are 1 or 2 riders ahead of this, and still within this group, Kalik, Campbell, Empson, Lancia, Lisa, the usual contingent, if I may call them that. Other than Blackham, it looks as if all the starters in category B are still together. Lancia is one to watch, as always, has a great sprint on him, but again sometimes a variable performance. Turned up late to Saturday's handicap race, then stopped riding and left. So timing is always a little bit of an issue for him. Needs to get to the start line on time. About the same age as Kalik, if I recall correctly, both in their early 30s. Campbell still looking comfortable. Well, I do think this is a course he could take advantage of. Sitting at 2.5, 2.7 watts per kilo at the moment. Some large flat sections, and other than the third hill, which is up Main Street, East Main Street, which is a sort of a long drag but not very steep, still possible to draft at the sort of speeds riders will be going up that hill. This is a good course for Campbell to take advantage of, and I think if he had someone to ride with, an attack would be possible. So leaving the main group now, looking further back in the field. Taff is 34 seconds behind the leading Cat B peloton, and I just missed Blackham actually. There is Blackham. Just disappeared off screen again. No, there he is. So Blackham, let's just see the time gap. Looks to be about 1 minute 40 seconds off the pace from the main front runners of category B, and is still with the same group of riders. We have a quick look. Yes, still the same group of riders that we saw last time. And behind Blackham now at 15 kilometers, is Taff, who is a further 40 seconds roughly behind, 14.5 kilometers, so 500 meters behind Blackham, about 40 seconds away. I don't see this gap closing unless Blackham slows. Not at this stage. We'll come back to that, of course. Shannon a further minute back. Now riding primarily, in fact all the riders around him are Cat C. He's now at 14.5 kilometers. Closest rider to him is Nixon. He always found himself isolated yet again. Not a great place to be in. In fact, there is no one ahead of him, 48 seconds away, and no one really behind him at this stage. In fact, the closest riders in that group in the distance on screen now contains Chris Reed, who undoubtedly has seen Nixon ahead, was 10 seconds ahead. There was a 10-second gap between the two of them up until about a minute ago, but now Reed clearly sees Nixon on the course ahead in this flatter section, will be taking advantage of that and looks to be closing that gap quite quickly, down to 3 seconds. At least that's what Zwift's reporting. Let's have a look from Reed's perspective, and indeed that looks like a 3-second gap. So Reed is going to catch Nixon. I have absolutely no doubt about that. Just as they round this left-hand bend, the gap goes down to 2 seconds. Nixon may not want to be caught by Reed, but he'd be much better off in this small group of riders rather than trying to push ahead all by himself, and it looks to be just taking the power off slightly to join the group. The question is now, with Reed having won Cat C for the last 3-4 races, can he do the same again, and can Nixon hold on? Did he go a little bit too hard too soon? I don't think so. I think he's capable of holding on. But the best bit of advice I could give now is just sit right at the back of this group. Make sure Reed stays at the front, and don't under any circumstances go past him. But do stay with these other riders. Don't let it become a cat and mouse game just with the two. And talking about cat and mouse, let's have a look and see what's going on in category D. Are Jones and Telford still together? As a guess, yes, and indeed they are. They are now approaching 11.2 kilometers, sorry, 11.12 kilometers now, but 4k left for them, so I will try and come back to them for the finish to see who gets that. And they are right next to each other with two other riders, and Lord is now 1 minute behind, further behind Jones and Telford. So Jones and Telford at 12.1 kilometers with about 4 kilometers, about 4 kilometers to go. Moving back towards the front of the field. Let's see who we can see. Nixon and Reed still together as we move further through the field. And that is the finish line. Not on this lap, of course, but that is the finish line nonetheless. So one more lap remaining for these riders. They will now, of course, be familiar with the course. They will be thinking about where they can take advantage of the flats, the downhills, and the climbs. There are opportunities to super tuck here for a brief recovery, but they are only brief. Taff at 17.7 kilometers, closing the gap slightly on Blackham, who's now at 18.4, pushing hard up this hill. 11%. I think I've missed quite where we are. This is 23rd Street, sorry. So it's not a particularly long hill, but at race pace any hill is draining. Let's see what's happening further up. Campbell, Thompson, Empson, Kalik. Lots of PRs coming out there. Davis all still together, and this is the twisty descent down Libby Hill, which is a difficult climb in the other direction. Some riders just coming out of super tuck there. Empson, Lance is still there. So all of these riders are capable. If I had to pick one rider right now, well, the way Davis has been riding recently, I would pick Davis actually, but If Lancia holds on, which he's more than capable of, I think I'd have to pick Lancia out of this group for a win. Should be Kalik in my view. Now, I think he is strong enough when he makes a suitable effort. Hence the reason I think teams are talking about his transfer. But I had to call someone right now. Based on what I could see at 21 kilometres, I'm going for Lancia. We'll see how that changes a little bit later on. Thompson, I think, may well beat Davis on this occasion. Kalik could do well. Empson, I think, will drop off just a tiny bit. May only be a second or two. And let's not forget Lancia Campbell, both capable, very capable, particularly Lancia in the sprint at the end, where once he gets that power wound up and that weight and momentum behind him, he can certainly win. And I forgot to have a look at Tom up front. I'm assuming he's still up front, but let's get an idea. Tom indeed is at third position, fifth position, sixth by just as I say that, but in this leading group at 22.5 kilometers, so 10k left. This is a quick race despite the hills, and he is close to FTP at the moment, or it's going up and down, but he's riding not far off FTP, about 5-10% below it on average by the looks of it, reaching FTP on occasion, so he's pushing hard. And the gap between this leading group of A's and the front runners in the B group, which of course has front one I've seen there is Kalik, it's still fairly constant, 1 minute 34 seconds, but remembering that there is a 1 minute gap time wise between them, so really a 34-second gap in terms of results. As you can see here, Kalik well established within the peloton. Power going up at the moment 300 watts. Does occasionally like to lead from the front, and he is towards the front of this group at the moment, but it's quite a large group. Campbell right next to him, Davis, Thompson, Empson, all there. Nothing much has changed. Lisa, oh that's a shame. Lisa seems to have drifted off the back of the leading B groups after I said earlier I expected her to stay with this group all the way to the end, and maybe not riding top performance or in top condition for tonight's race. Sometimes a bit variable, but certainly capable of staying with that B group and indeed staying with the A's on occasion as well. So I suspect something's not quite right. She is by herself now, which makes it even more difficult. 4 minutes 20 seconds behind her is Taff, and of course I missed out Blackham, who is 2 minutes behind Lisa at 21.6 kilometers, and Taff a further 50 seconds further back at 20.5. And I may skip over the C's at the moment, come back to them, just see what's happening in category D as the riders approach the finish. And I think I missed the finish. Sorry about that, guys. Just missed the finish of category D. So we will now move. In fact, there is Jones having crossed the finish line and come to a stop. Can't say I blame him. Telford 5 seconds further up on the course. Doesn't mean he crossed the line first, but I suspect it does. And Jones is just going to pass him now, in fact. And there is Jones with Telford just in front of him. Moving back up now in the field, let's see what's happening in category C. Ah, there we are. I thought all the riders had disappeared again. Category C, let's move to the back of that field. Shannon is at 21.1 kilometers. There is Reed, and Reed has made an interesting decision there. Last time we looked at Reed, he was with Nixon. Nixon is now at 20.4 kilometers and 12 seconds, 20 seconds now behind Reed. No, it's just changed back to 11. 11-second gap, but it's stabilised. Yes, about an 11-second gap, but Reed is by himself. This will make his ride difficult. Nixon has an opportunity to close down that gap. In fact, there is Reed just going around the 180-degree bend. He will see him on his right now if he has a look. Reed, I should say, sorry, Nixon, only with two other riders. If they're prepared to work at it, they most definitely can catch up with Reed. Reed now with one other rider. Oh, that is a Cat. Is it a Cat B right now? It's another Category C rider. And Reed is closing on Shannon by the looks of it. So Reed is at 21.2 kilometers, Shannon at 21.9. But just going up this small incline. Taft still in the same group at 22.3 kilometers, 34 minutes, 17 seconds into the race. And ahead of him should be Blackham. There he is, 51 seconds further ahead at 23.6. So with a small group now, it should be able to, I think he'll maintain this pace to the end. Lisa a further 1.5 minutes ahead at 24.2 kilometers. I think that is the gap, if I'm not mistaken. And 1 minute 38 ahead of Lisa at 25.3 is the main contingent of Category B riders. Still in there, Lancier, Campbell, Kalik, Empson, Davis. I think that is everyone. So has my view changed as to a potential winner here? It would be nice to see a breakaway. It makes the racing much more exciting, particularly for those watching. But I think if I had to put my money somewhere at this stage, if he's still here at least, he's still here, put my money on this man, Sam Lancier, at 25.7 kilometers, just taking a drink. And I hope that's, though he's just sitting on the back of the peloton, great position for him to be in. 200 watts, back up to 300. Yes, he is deliberately sitting there. The others will be thinking the same, of course. They will want to be on the front either, but nonetheless, I think Lancier is good at playing this game. Right next to him is Campbell, similar sort of size and build, similar sort of power output. Lancier maybe a little bit higher. And Empson's still in there, holding on rather well. Age-wise, more akin to that of Davis than the other riders from Category B. And the erratic performances from Kalik still continue, now right out the front and leading this race. Now drifting back through the peloton. He is most certainly capable of winning this if he feels good, is prepared to make the effort and push when required to do so. I'm not sure if he's in that position this evening, but I could be wrong. Just keeping a close eye now on Davis, Campbell, Lancier. Nothing's changed at this stage. For this peloton, the overall pace has come down slightly, not by much, but some of these riders, if not all of them, will be thinking about the finish now. 5k away. It will undoubtedly be a bunch sprint at this stage. I'd don't think anyone will make a break for it. It's unlikely. It is possible. A couple of the stronger riders. It would be nice to see a break from Lancia and Kalik actually. That would be one worth watching, but I don't think we're going to see that. So I'll stay with this group now for the next minute or two. In fact, before I do that, I'll quick check just to see if the leading group has yet got towards the finish. There is Tom at 28.8 kilometers, still riding well, 39 minutes 20 seconds into the race. About 3k left to go. Around the 180-degree bend. So we'll just watch the Bs, but won't go any further back in the field at this stage. All riders looking comfortable, in a race sense comfortable. I wouldn't in any way suggest that this is easy. And when I say comfortable, I mean riding within their sort of max capabilities really. Might be close to it, but that's where they are. 2.6 watts per kilo for Davis, I just saw. There he is, 2.8, 3.1, 2.7. .4 kilometers of this, the Richmond UCI Reverse Course, hosted by the Glasgow Green Cycle Club. And Lisa has found one other rider, was by herself. She is behind that main category B peloton, about 2 minutes 13 seconds further back at 27.5k. And back up to the front of this race. Tom at 30.3 kilometers, 2 kilometers left. And if I remember correctly, there's a left, a right-angled left and right, and maybe one more, but the finish is shortly after that. So we will stay now with this category A group until the end of the race. No riders have yet made a move. A little bit early for a sprint finish, but with the distance left, an attack is possible. Roughly 1 kilometer left to go. A strong rider could do that, but it doesn't look as if that is going to happen. Keep a close eye on Tom now at 31.1 kilometers. That's the left hand bend. Coming up now is the sharp right hand bend, 90 degrees to the right. This makes an interesting course in real life, of course, there, as well as the flats, the downhill sections, the cobbles, and all these sharp bends. It makes a big difference and makes it quite entertaining as well. And I'm sure, no doubt, why the UCI chose this for a World Cup event in 2015. 31.6k, less than 1 kilometer to go potentially. Distances are never quite accurate on Zwift and Zwift Insider, they don't always seem to tie up, but I will be able to identify the finish line when it comes on screen. And has that one rider gone off the front? It looks as if one rider is going for it. Just has pulled out about 2 seconds, and there is the finish line. Not that green archway on the right, but up ahead, if you have a look on the top right of the screen now, the square shaped blue banner, power out, power out, power up, coming out now. Riders behind starting to pile on the power. Many going into orange now. Tom has not responded just yet, drifting further down the field. He has now though. Look at those strategically timed power ups. All out now. Tom pushing hard, 11 watts per kilo, 11.3. He's going to finish in about 8th place by the looks of it, and I'll leave him then quickly get back to category B. Let's have a look, see what's happening at 31.1 kilometers. Here come the right angle bends. Kalik is leading the charge at the moment. Lancia is right there as well. So is Davis, Campbell. Empson is still there. Great to see Empson has held on to this pace. He will do now until the end. Let's try and find Lancia. There he is. That's Campbell. If I can get hold of Lancia. There we go. Lancia at 31.4 kilometers, sitting just ahead of Empson and Davis. Kalik, I think, is further ahead. There he is. Yes, Kalik is further ahead. So Kalik in pole position at this stage, but riders, as you can see, changing back and forward all the time. That looks to be Campbell up ahead, actually. Campbell. No, Campbell's in this group. That's a different rider up ahead. Apologies. So Lancia, Campbell, Thompson from GGCC looking to beat Davis yet again. Davis still in there. Then Kalik, Empson, all still there. 32.1 kilometers. There is the finish line. Who's going to go first? Kalik's in the lead at this stage. 5.6 watts. Lancia is piling on the power right now. Is it going to be Lancia? It looks like Lancia. Kalik, Lancia's ahead of Kalik and Davis and Campbell. Kalik pulls into the lead. It looks as if it's going to be Kalik at the moment. Kalik's pulling away from Lancia. Lancia is responding, and it looks to be Kalik that has crossed the line first, as far as I can tell. Let's have a quick look at the replay on that. Are we going to get the replay? No, the replay's gone wrong. Never mind. Not quite sure what happened there. Ah, I can work out what happened there. Forgot to push a button. Right, let's get back to the action. That looked to have been a great sprint and potentially a win for Kalik. So it looks as if his position in his current team may well be secured with a performance like that. Moving quickly up the field, should be able to catch Blackham, and there is Blackham. Is Lisa still riding? Lisa has 31.4 kilometers. She's going to be the next rider to cross the line, and the only rider I've seen on course with 3 jerseys. Just on the top right of the screen, the finish comes into view. No contention from any BCC riders around her. A couple of other B riders, and she will finish the race shortly. And we'll move back now and have a look at Blackham. Blackham's at 31 kilometers. There he is, 31.3, 46 minutes into the race, 7 riders in this group. And he now sees the finish line ahead of him. Not visually there, but it should just be appearing on his moving map in the top right of the screen about now. Quick look and see what's happening behind. It was Taft behind. Taft is now at 47 seconds, no, maybe a bit more than that. 1 minute back, 1 minute. Let's see if we can work it out. Actually, let's not miss Blackham crossing the finish line. There is the finish coming into view now. 32 kilometers, 47 minutes, 25 seconds. 5.2 watts per kilo, 6.1. He'll be thinking about a sprint. I've not ever seen him not sprint, no matter where he finishes in the in the race. Other riders are going. Blackham is now responding very quickly, 8.8 watts per kilo. He may have timed it if he just keeps going. Power Up has come out featherweight, well timed. He's 10.8 watts per kilo now. He's a good long sprinter. Looks to me as if he's timed this well. Someone else coming up really fast behind him, Burrows, just overtaking Blackham. Looks to be Blackham is going to cross the line next. And Taff is next up to cross the line at 31.2 kilometers. The finish line will be coming into view for him very shortly. .6 with Taff. Another GGCC rider, Purdy, just behind Taff. Here come the Power Ups. It's about 200 meters from here, as far as I can work out. Let's see how Taff manages on the sprint. He has the aero power up just as it disappears. Maybe played that one a little bit too early. He's going to get caught by some of the riders behind, and indeed there goes a group right past him, and he is in fact winding it down. We do like to see a sprint to the finish, even if there are no other BCC riders around you. It does make a big difference. I'll let him cross the line now. Shannon next at 31.3 kilometers. But more interestingly, what's happening in the seas. So Chris Reed at 30.7. No sign of Nixon. So Nixon has not made inroads to Reed. Reed has managed to hold Nixon off and has increased the gap from the last time I reported on them. Nixon now, let's have a look, could be 30 seconds. Get them all on screen together, can't quite. 1 minute behind Reed is the gap between Nixon and Reed. Next across the line will be Shannon, just going past the sprint banner on the right hand side of the course. There it is, and the finish line just comes into view through the trees, just passing 51 minutes for Shannon. Are we going to get a sprint out of him? I think he's most definitely capable. He is with C riders. He needs to demonstrate, of course, he's a B rider and show them how good he is at sprinting. In a good position to do so, but if he's going to do it, now's the time to do it. And he's not. Doesn't look like it. He is another rider happy to cross the line, and I'm sure no doubt get it over and done with. Moving back now to Reed. That is his view of the finish now. Is he going to sprint? He is indeed. And there he goes, using that power and weight, 10 watts per kilo. Just hold on. He's holding on. He's holding on. He's going to push it all the way to the line. What a great sprint for him. And Nixon, last rider on course, I think, as I missed the category D finish. So we will just wait until Nixon crosses the line. Be rude to leave him all by himself now. And at 31.6 kilometers, 51 minutes do not recognise this other rider that's with him, so I have no idea how he's going to respond. But Nixon tucked in there on his wheel will be thinking about a sprint, I've no doubt. In fact, they're both beginning to pile on the par now, but that other rider has just suddenly kicked really hard. Nixon has responded. Is he going to stay ahead? He is indeed. He's pulled ahead. Must keep going, keep going. Don't. In fact, the rider he's just overtaken has given up and is going to just cruise across the finish line. So there we have Nixon finishing the course in 52 minutes and about 35 seconds. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Next race is on Wednesday evening.